One of the terms that McAdams uses for these stories, he says these are constructed stories, and he sometimes uses the word myth, and doesn't, we think of myths as implying, well, maybe it's not true. What does McAdams have to say about that? Yeah,
so the idea of a myth is that it's a story that has meaning, that's symbolic, but its importance and its significance doesn't rely on it being literally true. And this is also true of the myths we make of our lives. And surprisingly, people don't have that much more of a difficult time writing a story about how their lives led to some imagined future outcome as they do about writing about how they got here now. And why that is because humans are fundamentally pattern recognizing, storytelling creatures. We deal with all the random information that's happened to us and that we're exposed to, and we organize it and we make sense of it and we slot it into categories. And the thing that's really important for having a sense of identity is not that that story is literally true or right in every particular, but just that there is a story that you feel like is coherent and meaningful and provides kind of a meaning and explanation of what's happened in your life. And it is that meaning-making process, that myth-making about our own life, that is the most important thing. So another thing about myths is that if you look at myths from around the world, whether you're looking at Norse myths or Greek myths, there are elements that are common to all of them across cultures. And we also see that with the myths that people make about their own individual lives, right? There are some common themes that occur.
Absolutely right, yes. And McAdams has done a lot of work trying to draw out from these myths common themes, and he's identified a number. One of the most interesting, I find, is this idea of what he calls the redemptive story, the story of redemption. And you see this in many people's stories, where it's a story about how they, were young, and then they kind of went off the rails, or, things didn't go right, and they kind of, went downhill for whatever reason and got involved with bad things. And then they have some kind of critical moment, some turning point in their life where something happens and they take a different direction in their life, and big things go well, and they go on to achieve things and become the person they are today. So McAdams does a lot of identifying these different things. And I hope you can see here, this is something, this kind of information, if you knew somebody's story about how they started out and then things went bad and then they came good, that would actually help you feel you knew that person much better than if you just knew their Big Five profile, or even than if you just knew, say, their values and their roles. That it really is getting to know them in a way that you can't really access through these other levels, which is why McAdams says it's so important.